This episode of the Reality Check podcast has been brought to you by my listeners, Patreons, and friends. If you'd like to find out more about how you can support the podcast and get some cool rewards, head over to patreon.com/Zach P. Phillips. Writing therapy. Just words on a page or something more? The page listens, the page absorbs, the page doesn't judge. The page can be discarded, the page can be shared, the page can be reread. The act of writing heals. It pulls the demons out. It exposes them to the light. It reveals them for what they are. Fabrication, rumination, improbability, regret. The act of writing instructs. It informs our current state, shows our inner workings, forces us to be precise. After writing comes the review. By looking back, we see the truth of how far we've come, of our varied and ever-changing moods, of different aspects of ourselves. We see that we are more complex than our current mental state can possibly comprehend. So write. Write without judgment, without pause for grammar or spelling, without thoughts of what's appropriate or right, without care for its readability, without concern for the judgment of others. It is the act of writing that counts, not the quality that you produce. No one has to see it. So just write. So that was a little sort of free verse poem called Writing Therapy. And, I talk about writing therapy a lot, but it's just so damn good for you. So damn good for me, at least. I see that there's in the mental health communities online on Facebook and on Reddit and in person, that the people that I speak to, the people that DM me, a lot of people talk about a struggle to find competent therapists, to find competent supports, to find people that understand them and help to basically to heal. And they're looking for, and they're desperate for, a way to get the help that they need. Now, nothing in my mind can replace a team of competent and good professionals. Like, that should be a goal to find, obviously. But what can you use in addition? What can you use while you're waiting until you can find someone that will suit you? Because I've gone through quite a few therapists in my time, and some have been great, some have been terrible, some have been just unprofessional, some just haven't worked for me. And there's always that gap between therapists, and some people struggle financially, and there's a whole plethora of concerns. So it's like, well, what can you do? What can you do to get some benefit? Now, just as a caveat here, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a trained professional. I'm just someone that's learning to deal with his mental state as best possible, and then sharing what works for me, and being like, hey, this might work for you. And one of the things that works for me quite well is writing therapy. And this is a sort of a broad construct, or a broad term to define a few different practices that I do. I'm going to put a link down to a chapter from my book, How to Get Your Shit Together, as well as a Skillshare course that I put up on writing therapy. The link will give you 2 months free access, so you don't have to pay. The book chapter is up for free, and I may give you another resource, but either way, check out and I'll also put a couple of examples of my books and chapters of writing therapy. So I'll give you access to what I've done as writing therapy and how I do it. But I want to give you a breakdown now, and the real simple answer is to literally just write. Just carry a pen and paper or your phone and just write down your thoughts. It can be as simple as free writing, just whatever you're thinking in your mind onto the page. That's one approach. But you can get a little bit more fancy with it. You can write down how you're feeling in one moment, one sort of aspect, when you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, or when you're feeling a little bit sort of crazy, a little bit triggered, a little bit depressed, a little bit anxious, however you're feeling, right? And then a day, a week, whatever later, you can look at that writing again and compare yourself in your new mental state to your past mental state. And what that does is it allows you to see how you've changed. Because I know personally when I'm in a down and bad mental state, it feels like I'm always like that. It feels like I'm not in a good place and that I never have been and I never will be. Your thoughts can be insidious and it can make you feel like you're always going to feel like this. But it's not true. And writing down and then reviewing it can help. And what you can also do with that review is sort of change it. So you could write and then you could rewrite, changing the sentiments. So, for example, if you've written, I always feel like this, you could change it to, I sometimes feel like this. Do you see how you can sort of take some ownership and some control over the whole version of you, as opposed to just focusing on how you are when you're feeling depressed or stressed or, you're suffering from a mental affliction over here. You can focus on, you can see that you're not just that one little snippet. You're the whole thing. The concept of that sort of relates to journaling. So journaling is an aspect of writing therapy. Take a journal every day. There's different approaches to journaling. You could write down every morning, write down how you're feeling. Or at the end of the day, you could write down what happened in the day and how it made you feel. Or you could just write down the major events. But the point is that if you keep track of how you're feeling, once again, you can look back over it and see the trends and the moods. For a while there, I was sort of just doing a couple of sentence summaries of each day and then tracking my, my energy levels, my mental state, and my mood, and sort of like out of 10. 10 being really good, 0 being really low. And then I could track that on a graph to see how I was traveling. Because once again, it's hard to see how you're feeling in the moment, right? It feels like you're always going to feel like this, with very rare ups or downs from your current state. I want to sort of look at the reality, because when I'm feeling really depressed, I want to know exactly how I've always felt to know that if I'm stuck here. Because if it feels like you're always stuck in depression, that can be further depressing and it can make you feel suicidal. Because if you're always feeling like you're always depressed, what's the point? Whereas if you know, based on your past you has written down, I'm feeling great today, and you see that over and over and over and over and over again, you know that what you're currently feeling isn't true. But the only one that can prove that to you is you. Because once again, I could be like, hey friends, hey family, hey whatever, I'm feeling terrible, I always feel like this. And they're like, nah, you've been great before. I can think in my head, nah, but you're wrong. You don't know me. It's very hard to say that to yourself, right? You can even get even more meta on it and counter your future mental thoughts and being like, I'm feeling great. And no matter what future you is thinking, Zach, you're wrong. I am feeling great, legitimately feeling good right now. You can tell yourself that. I take writing therapy a step further and start playing with the words and doing rhymes and poetry and all of that sort of stuff. Because I like it. It's something that I find enjoyable, finding the precise word to fit the emotion and then sort of playing with that and sort of having a bit of fun with it. But I'm a writer. I enjoy that sort of thing, right? I'm not saying that you need to write poetry, but there is something added benefit to it that you can. So if you do find a benefit from, and you do think you might enjoy it, have a little play. I'll put a link to the Skillshare course as well. I wrote one on writing poetry for self-expression, using poetry as basically a form of therapy. So if you want to know my process for writing poetry, if you want to know my process for writing therapy, click the links and you'll get 2 months free access. And you might find that it adds something. Don't be discounted, or don't just sort of disregard the concept of writing therapy or writing poetry or this sort of stuff offhand until you've given it a try. Give it a try and see how you go. So let's talk about why you would try it. Well, like I said, if you don't have access to a therapist, you need to be able to help yourself, right? And regardless, you need to be able to help yourself anyway. I would suggest, like, part of the things that I do, as I always say, is meditate. But beyond that, look at what a therapy session often is. A therapy session often, like with a therapist or with friends, when you're talking to them, it's this back and forwards, like, hey, I'm feeling this way. And just sometimes just the act of talking to a person can help you. Even if they don't offer any advice or anything, it's just the act of putting the thoughts to words and expressing them helps. Considering that, I find a lot of similarities between writing. Now, obviously, you're not getting the feedback from an expert. However, you are still expressing yourself. And that there's some benefit there. That does help for the most part. Obviously, there'll be some people that writing therapy would be counterintuitive for. Okay. But for a lot of people, it would be beneficial. And beyond that, it can act as a starting point to help you start expressing yourself, in the sense that, like I said in this poem, the page can be discarded. It's just a paper. It's not another person. You might have something that's going on in your mind or in your life that's, you feel such shame or such confusion or such embarrassment that to say it out loud to another person is just beyond you. I can certainly relate. Why not start trying it to yourself? Because this is one of the things that I've had to realize, is that for a lot of the things, you need to sort of turn and face what you're feeling, what you're going through, to be able to heal. If you can't express it, if you can't get it out, it's going to be very hard to face it. That's just my take. Now beyond that, you can sort of, like I said, the page can be discarded. It can be destroyed. You can ritualistically burn it or flush it, or those sort of things, right? But you can also look back over it. So it's a bit of a record here. So there's a few little things you can do with this. I strongly encourage that you give writing therapy a try. And if you do it and you want to talk to me or share about it, please connect with me. Hit me up on social at Zach P. Phillips, or on my website, zachary-phillips.com, and just shoot me a message and say, hey, this is what I'm experiencing. This is how I found writing therapy to be. If you've got questions about it, ask me. The reason I'm sort of going down this path is, I know I found a lot of benefit from sharing my story, and I know other people have found it as well. And I sort of share what I do online to sort of spread that, the sort of the knowledge that I've gained, and also to help let people know that they're not alone. When I share and talk about my own issues, people would be like, hey, I felt exactly that. So on my website, there's a project that I've got up called the Share Your Story Project. And this is basically people writing in and sharing their story of trauma, mental health, abuse, sexuality, disability, a whole variety of topics. The idea being that they're getting the benefits of writing therapy, and the readers are able to read stories that might relate to them. So if you have an interest in the Share Your Story Project as well, click the link and head over. Obviously, I've bombarded you with links and ideas this podcast. I apologize. But the basic premise is get a pen, get a page, write something, and see how you feel. Because I predict you'll probably end up feeling a little bit better because of it. So anyway, if you like the podcast, please let someone know about it. Say, hey, check this out. It might do you some good. You might enjoy it. And chuck us a review wherever you're listening to it. Cheers.